your shoe. There we go. Start out with leg training, and what I'll show you is five or six exercises per body part. Normally what we like to suggest people to do is to pick between 3 and 5 of your favorite exercises for each body part, and then do about 5 or 6 sets on each one of those. Now every time you go into the gym, you don't have to do the same 4 exercises. You should vary that. And we'll answer all those questions later about how to put a program together and which exercises are best for different goals that you may have, slimming your thighs or gaining muscle mass. Oh, Jeff. And then the leg extension, which should always be done in a nice controlled manner. You never want to swing the weight back and forth real fast, because then you're just using inertia to do the lift and not the strength of your muscles. And then the leg curl. There's many different ways and different pieces of equipment that leg curl can be done on. There's lying leg curl, standing leg curl. There's actually a seated leg curl nowadays. And I particularly like the standing leg curl because you can go through a much greater range of motion. And then the lying leg curl, which this machine is actually quite nice because it puts you in the proper position where it keeps your hips down. And most of you people out there look like you do a lot of training, and you know that you're not supposed to raise your hips when you do the leg curl. Otherwise, you put the strain on your back muscles versus on the hamstring muscles. Hamstrings are probably my best body part, and I attribute a lot of my hamstring development to track and field, where we used to run stadium stairs with weight vests on, a lot of sprinting, bounding, jumping, but also the fact that I do at least 12 sets of leg curls in my workouts. A lot of people do 5 sets of leg curls and that's it. But I'll always do like 6 lying leg curls, 6 standing leg curl, and I may go up to 40 repetitions on each one. Also calves, you can't forget, your calves are also part of your legs. And this is one of my favorite exercises. Also to make sure that you do standing donkey raises and then also seated. And the step up, which I do not see a lot of people doing other than when I was in track and field. And it's an excellent exercise for the women out there that want to slim down the hip area. It's real good for developing the muscles in the upper thigh, also the muscles around the knee. Just make sure you don't jump and bounce into the exercise because then it becomes very easy. You've got to do it nice and slow and controlled. Okay, the question is how do you keep your energy levels up for your workout so you still feel good, especially if you have a longer workout like myself. I think a lot of it depends on your schedule, and what you're eating. First of all, if you're working 8 hours a day and then you try to go to the gym and spend 3 hours in the gym, you're going to be tired. Also, if you're not eating right, let's say you get up in the morning and you go right to the gym without eating anything at all, your energy level may be down. Or if you go to work and you go immediately to the gym without stopping and having something to eat, then your energy level is going to be down too. So it's important to eat enough carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates throughout the day and maybe even the night before, so that when you do get up in the morning, and let's say you are doing an early morning workout, you get up and you may have a piece of toast or some fruit, and then you go to the gym, but the night before you ate enough carbohydrates where they're in your system and ready to be used. Usually people who don't have a lot of energy aren't eating right, they're not eating enough carbs, they may be eating high protein but not enough carbohydrates, which is really where your energy comes from, and they're not sleeping enough.
A lot of the Americans too, the bodybuilders over there, are finding that they get their best workouts by only training an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, because they seem to run out of energy after about an hour and 15 minutes. Their concentration starts to wane or to wander a little bit, and that also is, some research has shown that's related to testosterone levels too, is that after 50 minutes to an hour in the male working out, the testosterone levels start to drop down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So most of the bodybuilders now are re-looking at the workouts and not making them quite as long, but they're shorter and more intense.
I find now that my workouts are best between 45 minutes and an hour, and they start to get boring after about 45 minutes. Now the question is about amino acids and supplements. What do you think of them, and do I actually take them? When I'm in contest preparation phase, like 4 months before a contest or 3 months before a contest, when I start to really be careful on my diet and get rid of the fats in my diet and the simple sugars, and then I start to pay more attention to vitamins, multivitamin, mineral packs, and aminos. And I have a special problem because I'm a vegetarian, and so I don't eat meat products. So my protein and my aminos have got to come from either supplements that I'm taking or protein powders or egg whites, really. But I think that aminos and vitamins are very good, especially for people that are on very strict diets, that are under a lot of stress. Pregnant women need special vitamins and extra vitamins. Women need extra iron, calcium. But as far as for the general person who's eating well and sleeping well and not overtrained or overstressed, they really don't need a lot of extra supplements. But that's very rare where you'll find somebody who's so perfectly healthy. Has such a perfect schedule.
Cory has a little bit of problem with amino acids too. If she takes too many of them, that sometimes the capsules are a little bit harder to digest. And
if you take them right before a workout.
If you have indigestion or something like that, it doesn't work very well. But they're starting to make a lot of the amino acids that are sublingual that you can just put under your tongue and it'll dissolve and get in your system real fast. So I think sometimes that bodybuilders get a little bit too caught up with amino acids, and basic protein powders are more efficient to mix up in a formula rather than having to swallow pills all the time. But either way, you just have to make sure you're getting enough good quality protein in your diet.
Okay, now the question is about eating before you do a workout. I cannot eat my normal meals before I do a workout, especially if I do back workout or leg workout. Things where you're bent over and you're putting pressure on the abdominal wall, or sit-ups. Abdominals are, it doesn't so much matter if you're doing an arm workout or a shoulder workout or a chest workout, but that's all something that's very personal. I mean, Jeff can eat so much food and he'll go and do a leg workout and it won't bother him at all, but I get heartburn.
But I only do one set. So.
And then he sits there and he eats and reads in between sets, so.
It's the Weider reading principle.
Yeah. But if you are going to train hard and fast, which I recommend people to train. I mean, I don't recommend people to go to the gym and do a set and wait 10 minutes and do another set. I usually, like myself, I train very fast and very hard, and so I don't get a lot of rest in between. So I can get 40 sets in 45 minutes, for a workout, or even less time, whereas most people would find that hard to get in like an hour and a half or 2 hours. But it's all very personal. If you've got a sensitive stomach, make sure that you just eat like 2 or 3 hours before your workout. If you need those carbs, eat an apple or eat a bagel or eat some bread, something that's low calorie and low fat but will give you energy. And then also make sure that when you do your workouts that you continue to just sip water throughout your workout, because sometimes you can actually get very dizzy and sort of sick feeling if you're not drinking enough fluid during your workout. You don't want to be drinking high sugar drinks and coffee and sodas while you're training, but just pure water, and just sip a little bit of it in between every couple sets.
the opposite end of the spectrum at the same time, that most people can't eat before they work out, so you're in the normal category there. But on the other hand, the maintenance of the blood sugar is a real problem, and some people get nauseous and dizzy if they don't have anything in their system and they go through a hard workout. Then what happens is their insulin is too high and they get a sort of a blood sugar reaction. So you have to find the right balance so that you have something in your system so that you don't get the shakes and the jitters, but at the same time you're not loaded with food so that you get the nausea.
The question is, how do you keep your direction going? Do you set yourself goals or? Yes, you do. You have to set yourself some kind of goal. What I did in the last 6 years was, first of all, I got myself a training partner that I was very fond of, that I could laugh with and have fun, and that I felt a responsibility to make sure that I would get to the gym and meet. So therefore, you're going to the gym on that behalf. But as far as within our training, we would set goals like on one exercise per body part. Like it may be the leg or the squat, it may be the behind the neck shoulder press, it may be the incline dumbbell press, maybe arm curl. We would set ourselves a goal, and that goal would be to increase the amount of weight we were using by like 5 pounds every couple of workouts. So that you're not just sedentary and your training doesn't just always flow along in the same direction. So that was our goal, and as you reach your goal, then it gives you motivation because obviously you're getting stronger, therefore you're getting more muscle tone and shaping your body. So it's very important to set yourself goals. You can set yourself competition goals too. I've never seen a person who hasn't competed get into contest shape. There's no way you can do it because who wants to diet like that and who wants to train like that unless you're going to compete? So it may be a goal like, okay, 6 months from now, I'm going to shoot for competing in this contest, and then you train towards that contest. Otherwise, you just keep floating around comfortably, forever.
Cory's now doing chest work. This is a seated chest press. This is kind of a good machine because it has an advantage over the flat bench press, which if you have a bad back can be kind of harder than low back because you have a tendency to arch your low back. And this is great because it supports the back. You notice that her knees are up. This is another precaution if you do have a bad back. Important points are like with any barbell or machine exercise, to press slow and to return the bar to the starting position slowly. Always breathe normally, never hold your breath. Make sure you get a full range of motion, way back, stretch the pecs out for all the reps that you do, whether it be a low rep set of 6 to 8 or a higher rep set of 12 to 20 reps. Technique is important in every exercise. Big question that Cory gets asked a lot is, how much weight should I use for my exercises? This depends upon your goals. If your goal is great strength and power, you want to work out with heavy weights. That means the amount of weight that's very hard for you to do 6 to 8 repetitions. This builds strength and power. If you want to work mostly on muscle endurance, then you would use higher reps and you would train with a little bit less rest between sets. For muscle endurance, you might want to do between 12 and 20 reps, and of course you're not going to be able to use as much weight then. But it's important on every set you do, no matter what reps you're using, whether it's low reps or high reps, to use as much weight as you can for that set, for those reps. That way it's relative. It might not be so heavy for the 15 to 20 reps, but it is still heavy relative to the amount of reps that you're doing. Cory's next exercise for chest training is an incline press using a machine. Here her upper body is inclined at an angle of about 60 degrees, and this particular angle in this exercise then puts most of the stress on the upper part of the pectoral muscle, the upper chest, and the front part of the deltoid, although there is some work with the tricep involved as well in the back of the arm. But this is a great exercise for you women out there because women have a tendency to be very thin in the clavicle areas, and this will fill in that muscle area in the upper pec. Again, you would do heavier weights for the low reps for more strength and power, and medium reps with a medium weight for more building and shaping.
It's always important in your exercising that you breathe properly. And if you're confused, if you just can't seem to breathe normally, then always exhale on the lifting part. Never hold your breath. Always exhale when you're pushing the weight up or away from the body. Cory's now doing horizontal chest abductions, or called the pec deck. This is a great way to define the chest muscles. This is direct exercise for the pectoralis major muscle of the upper body, which function is to bring the arms across the body. That's just what this exercise does against resistance. Another way to do this is with cable flies or lying on a flat bench with dumbbells. It's important to go slow and steady and always breathe normally. Usually the staple of anybody's chest program is the flat bench press. This is rather like doing a push-up. Push-ups are also good for the chest muscles if you haven't got equipment, but the flat bench press builds up the entire upper body, tricep muscle, back of the arm, shoulder or deltoid muscles, and pectorals or chest muscles. Earlier in the video you saw Cory doing the seated chest press, and this of course is the flat press. It can be done with dumbbells, barbells, or a machine. Notice how Cory keeps her upper body very stable on the bench and doesn't move around. It's very important to keep your body in a fixed position so that all your muscles can operate most efficiently. The bench press is a rather difficult exercise to learn. It does require some technique. So Cory always recommends that you begin with a very light weight that you can easily do for 20 or 25 repetitions, and just stick with that light weight for the first week or two. If it's an empty bar that might weigh 20 pounds, or just 5 or 10 pound dumbbells, or even dictionaries or heavy books at home that you can do in one in each hand. Just learn the technique first in every exercise before you try to work into heavy weights. And then once you do work in heavy weights, just move up very gradually and steadily.
The question is, how prevalent is steroids in the United States and in female bodybuilding? I used to be very naive to it, and honestly I would believe that it was not existent within the sport. And you know, I used to believe that when I was in track and field too, and now I'm seeing that there was steroid use in track and field when I was competing, and I think that there's more steroid use in bodybuilding than I would like to see. I mean, anything is more than I would like to see. But with women's bodybuilding, we've got an advantage in that we've been drug tested since 1984. Since the first year I was in the Miss Olympia, they tested the professionals. Now that's the professionals, it's not the amateurs. Now they're starting very slowly to start testing the amateur women in different contests. They do like the major ones, the America and the USA, but now they're starting even to go into the lower level ones. So that will help control the drug use. Also, the fact that they've used random testing in the past. Last year they didn't, but they're I hear they're going to start using random testing again this year. Men's this year is the first time they're going to be using drug testing in the Mr. Olympia, and they started testing a couple of different contests. In the last couple pro shows were tested, so they're starting now to control the men's contest too. Well, yes, I mean, usually if you have trouble sleeping, sometimes that can mean that you're overtrained, and
Not trouble sleeping, just in terms of...
you just don't have time to sleep? Well,
you
that's a hard
certainly-
one.
You know, you certainly, it's sort of like, not getting enough sleep is sort of like being older and working out, because the effect on the body is sort of the same. You don't recover as well. And you just have to modify your workouts such that you probably would certainly not want to work out more than 3 days a week and or 4 days a week and do twice a week upper body, twice a week lower body. You certainly wouldn't want to try to do a regular split routine or a double split routine like some of the champions, like, you know, most of these people, like Albert Beckles, we know, will always gets a full 8 or 9 hours of sleep at night, and he always takes a nap in the middle of the day and still comes back and does these evening workouts. That's not practical for most people. A lot of people only get 6 hours of sleep at night, and they don't get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. And we just don't think it's possible to do a 3-day on, 1 day off type training routine that most of the people do, and that you would definitely just have to get more cat naps or rest, or you just have to let your body recover better. As far as taking more supplements, there's really no food supplement or vitamin or mineral that will do what the brain needs from sleep. I mean, you can't run on, it's just like running on empty. There's no special type of gasoline. A vitamin or mineral or carbohydrate will give you temporary energy, but when the brain is tired, the whole body becomes tired, and there's really no way you can compensate for it besides sleep or rest. So you're just going to have to lower your intensity. And
Lower your intensity, lower the time you're in the gym, and if you possibly can get like 20 minutes of rest during the day, you know, there's research now also showing that if you can just somehow grab 20 minutes of rest during the day, that it will benefit your workout immensely. I mean, even if you're not working out, but it will just benefit you immensely if you can just catch 20 minutes sometime during the middle of the day.
Right in the middle of your job.
Yeah. The question is, are most of the women bodybuilders my size? No, I'm very tall for a woman bodybuilder. I'm 5'9". Mario Salin from Finland is about 5'8".
Problem with Bev is that it's so funny, because when Bev gets in contest shape, well, this year she was bigger, but her best year was 2 years ago when she won the world title and won by a half point over the German girl. And Bev looks better the smaller she gets as a bodybuilder, because in the off season her weight gets too high, and because she's shorter, she's about 5'4" or 5'5".
Yeah, most of the women are about 5'4".
She weighs up to 170 or 180 pounds, and that's just too much at that weight for her frame, and it makes her look more masculine. It makes her frame look less aesthetic. Cory has very good aesthetics. She has more lines and is taller and keeps her weight, you know, reasonable and in shape all the time. But if you're shorter and you let your weight go up, particularly on the female, and with a wider frame like that, it looks masculine, it looks boxy. That's the only problem. But actually, when she gets in contest shape, she's a small person.
Yeah.
You know, she's good 4 or 5 inches shorter than Cory, and she doesn't look that big. But unfortunately, if the appearance on television, which always makes you look bigger anyway, if you're overweight and you're shorter, you're just going to look massive.
But that's one of the things, is a lot of women bodybuilders in the pro ranks, and especially in the amateur ranks, but in the pro ranks, they just have a tendency to just balloon out. I mean, when they compete, they look great, they're in shape, they're firm, they're tight, but in the off season, it's like they forget that they're women bodybuilders and that they're representative of women, and that they should still maintain some type of, I mean, I'm not saying that they've got to be training every day and stay in contest shape and contest diet, because I don't either, but just to be a little bit closer. For people out there that compete, we usually suggest that a woman should not get between 8 and 10 pounds over her contest weight, and I never do. And I usually compete at about 147, and my highest ever in my life is 157, and that's like forced heavy, you know, by eating a lot. And but you see a lot of women that are about 135 in contest shape, but yet in the off season they weigh 175 pounds. So it's like, why? You know, you have 40 pounds to lose, and it's all fat.
The men do the same thing. One year, in 1981, when I competed in the Mr. America, we had a guy named Rory Liedermeyer that competed, and he ended up competing in the light heavyweight class. He weighed in at 179, and 8 months before the contest, he weighed 290.
So he lost over 100 pounds. You know,
It just doesn't make any sense,
yeah.
you know. It's so hard on the body to go up and down in that weight
It's
anyway.
hard on your skin, it's hard
hard
on
on
your
your brain,
relationship.
you know. This question back there.
The question is about needing to stay brown for competition and exhibitions and appearances, and that being in the sun a lot is damaging to your skin. That's very damaging to your skin. And even, yes, solarium or sun tanning beds is also damaged. Anytime your skin gets tan, whether it's over a long period of time or a sudden tan, it's just damaging your skin. And you can't, get away. Even if you don't get sunburnt, a tan is damaging your skin. So what I do is I always use the fake tan. And that's why my face is always like really white, and I don't put it on my face, and I just have it all over my skin.
And I don't use it, that's why.
Yeah. So what I have on is totally fake.
This is our own
tan.
product. We have a product called Dawn Under Tan that I believe Sam has it here in Adelaide, but we developed the product because of that concern about this.
No, it's not.
No.
And most people don't compete all year round. Like I compete once a year. And so if I get a little bit of sun before my competition, it's okay, because it's the only time in the whole year I'll get any sun at all. But I still use the fake artificial colorings, and it's just much better for your skin. And now with all the research that shows all the detrimental effects of sun damage and the sun and solariums, it just doesn't make sense to be sun worshippers
Yeah.
today.
A little bit of it's not going to hurt you,
No,
but
a
I
little
mean,
bit,
you
but-
don't want to lay out in the sun all the time. That's certainly.
And especially to just keep your face under cover. If you do want to get a little bit brown on your body, that's okay. But just make sure if you're laying in the sun tanning beds, you keep your face fully covered and just
See,
use
It's even
some
more
makeup.
dangerous in Australia, from what I understand. They have more depletion of the ozone layer over Australia than any other place in the world. So.
Plus they have nude beaches here too, don't they?
What'd you say? Yeah,
More
more
coastline.
coastline, more nude beaches.
Yeah.
Cory's now moving on to back exercises. One of the main exercises for the upper back is lat machine pull downs, either to the front of the body or behind the body. Cory demonstrates here lat pull downs to the front of the body, which is a great exercise for the latissimus muscles, the big muscle in the upper back. It's important to keep the chest held high, the back with a slight arch in it, and get the elbows down and behind the body at the down part of the motion. But never cheat and roll the shoulders forward and pull down with the upper body in a cheating manner. Always keep the body fixed once you adapt the normal position. Normally for an upper back workout, you do 3 or 4 basic exercises with between 2 to 5 sets of each exercise, depending upon what level you're at, as far as how competitive you are or how advanced you are in terms of how many months or years you've been weight training. So Cory would normally do somewhere between at least 3, but not more than 5 or 6 sets of this particular exercise, all somewhere between 8 and 15 repetitions for the upper body. 8 to 15 seems to be a good number that builds a nice balance of shape, size, muscularity, and definition. There is a difference when you pull the bar down behind the head instead of to the top of the chest. When you pull to the front, you're primarily working the latissimus muscles. However, when you pull to the back, you bring in the posterior deltoids and some of the inner upper back muscles more in assistance, and takes some of the strain off the latissimus muscles. So you really should do both forms of the exercise in your back workout. Once you get in your basic position, do not swing or heave with the body. The body should not be going forward or backward to any great degree. Being strict in your exercise is always more important than how much weight you can handle in bodybuilding. It's especially important to stay very upright when you do the pull down to behind the head. Never pull the bar down too fast so the bar doesn't come crashing into the upper vertebrae. You pull it down nice and slowly. The dumbbell row or barbell row is a great exercise for all of the muscles of the upper back. Notice the way Cory's got her knee bridged on a bench. This is to take strain off the lower back, so that all you have to do is concentrate on getting your elbow up and back to really work the muscles in the upper back. Again, it's an exercise where you do not need to use real heavy weights and swing the weight up, but concentrate on good technique and isolating the muscles. What you do for the right side of your body, so also must you for the left side of your body. One of the principles of bodybuilding is to maintain symmetrical, proportionate development. Earlier you saw Cory doing an exercise called a seated chest press, which was easy on the low back. Here's a seated rowing motion, which is a way also to work the upper back, but taking it easy on the low back. If you have a bad low back, this is a very good way to work the upper back without stressing or straining the low back. As with all back exercises, it's important to get the elbows beyond the body at the bottom of the range of motion. That ensures full contraction in the upper back muscles. This particular machine has four different hand grips on it. In one, you can have your hands in mid-position like Cory just had, or in the other, you can have your hands in full pronation. Basically, it's a matter of comfort, what you like doing most. Important things are to stay stationary, get the elbows behind the body, contract the shoulder blades together, maintain an upright posture, breathe normally, and get a great workout on this machine.
Well, the question was about, do we think that the contraceptive, the pill, would be a disadvantage in bodybuilding because of the fact that estrogen is probably a disadvantage and testosterone is an advantage in terms of muscularity and mass. I think that the dosages in the female birth control pills are so small that it's not really a factor. I know some of the female bodybuilders do use forms of birth control pills, but most of them don't, simply because of probably more of the possible health problems that might occur over long-term use from that, and use other forms of birth control. But I think that the dosages that you're talking about, I don't think that it would really have a strong factor. A bigger problem is the fact that some men that use artificial testosterone and anabolic steroids, one of the side effects of that is conversion of part of the testosterone into estrogen. And sometimes a person that uses anabolic steroids for a long time will have feminizing effects from that in the male. And males can have, or females of course, will have masculizing effects from the steroids. So it would be better to really try to accomplish all that you can in training without using any of that. And I would think most women athletes would probably tend to not use birth control pills for birth control simply because of the fact that there might be a slight effect towards holding extra water or extra fatty tissue or something like that, would opt for a different form of birth control.
I think one year they had a couple of the birth control pills on the drug test for some reason.
You know, in the early years when they started testing for the remnants of the steroids, some of the female birth control pills had sort of the same metabolites, but they've since made the test much more specific. They don't have that problem anymore.
The question is,
Training with colds.
training with colds, how do you get around that? Well, I have a cold right now and I keep trying to cough, especially with all the rain that you guys have been having too. It's incredible. Well, one of the things is to make sure that, you know, the sort of questionable about vitamins. One thing is to make sure that you do take your vitamins, whether they work. Some people say they work, some people say they don't. Vitamin C, I think that if you really concentrate on taking a multiple vitamin mineral pack, that it will help. Keeping warmed up. If you go to a gym and it's very cold, don't immediately start your workout, but keep your sweat clothes on, your tracksuit, and go through a real nice warm-up, stretching your legs and your shoulders and your back and your arms and your chest, hamstrings, before you start your workout. Then you'll get accustomed to the weather in there and you can start taking off some of your tracksuit then, but never just jump into a cold gym. And also, to try to avoid getting cold too, is sometimes people have a tendency to do a workout, get really steamy and warm and sweaty, and then they just grab their keys and they go out to their car and they leave. So make sure too that if you have gone through a real good workout, real vigorous workout, that you get your clothes back on, you give yourself time to warm down so that you'll hopefully avoid catching some of the colds that are going around. Also make sure too that a lot of the colds are transmitted through handshakes and drinking glasses, from other people. Just make sure that after your workout, that either you wear gloves when you train, to keep the germs off your hands, or that you always, periodically throughout your workout, you just wash your hands.
I think it also gets back to this fellow's concern about sleep, is that you might have to really take care of your immune system as much as you can in periods where it's bad weather, or you're exposed to a lot of stress or bad weather, and that would be to cut back a little bit on your intensity and your volume so you don't just get run down, because a cold is probably some sort of signal that your immune system is a little bit weak, because some people don't ever get colds, just like some people never get headaches or whatever because they have stronger immune systems. So make sure you're eating the foods that have been linked to keeping your immune system strong, like Cory said, chocolate, yeah. you know, the vegetables and the fruits with high vitamin A and C
Play
and
with a
things
lot of
like
koalas.
that. Vegemite.
They're always high on something. Okay, the example of a typical day's diet. Chocolate. Let me start over again. Chocolate. Actually, yes, chocolate. I usually have this, I've got this like addiction to chocolate. And so I usually start my day out with some piece of chocolate, but usually it's with porridge or oatmeal, whatever you call it over here. A bowl of that, maybe some dry toast or some jam with no butter, and maybe a cup of coffee. And then I'll go and do my first workout. Then after my first workout, my training partner and myself, we usually go over to this deli across the street and we get some freshly baked breads that are baked without any fat and salt in them. And we usually gobble down a whole lot of those. You know, I think that you can eat quite a bit of carbohydrates if you're not eating a lot of fats and other simple sugars. And then I may meet Jeff for lunch and have a tuna fish sandwich or just some more bread or egg whites or something, or a salad. We eat a lot of salads with low-calorie dressing. As it gets close to a contest, less dressing or no dressing. And then at night, basically the same thing, vegetables, salads, and some type of bagels or breads.
Cory's really a breadaholic. She really,
I don't really eat a lot of fruit, which I wish I would eat more fruit. And my protein usually comes from drinks, which like once again in the morning I would make this big huge protein drink, which is 100% egg white protein powder, and then one again at night, because then I'm guaranteeing that I'm getting protein in, even though I'm not eating a lot of egg whites or meats or tuna or fish.
The neat thing about body shaping and the training with weights that a lot of women forget about and don't realize is that you can really, you never see bodybuilders that are fat. I mean, a lot of times you see people that are into jogging a lot that are overweight and they have a lot of fatty tissue on their body, even though they might be thinner. The thing about bodybuilding that is so good is that it steps up your metabolism for 24 hours a day, in the sense that if you have to have a little bit more muscle on your body, muscle is an active tissue and it requires calories. Fat doesn't. It just sits there and insulates your body, provides energy if need be. But muscle is a contracting tissue all the time, and so it requires a caloric support. So consequently, a bodybuilder or someone that has a little bit more muscle on their frame can take in a lot more calories than the average person and not get fat. And this is the thing that a lot of doctors overlook when they put people on weight training programs. They always say, okay, eat this many calories and make sure you do aerobic exercise, but when they should be telling them to do aerobics plus anaerobic work, weight training work, because that'll muscularize the frame and it'll be a stimulus to burn more calories, because you have to have that support for the muscles. So Cory everybody makes a big thing about what do you eat and so on and so forth, never eat chocolate or never eat this, but I mean, Cory has never even had to worry about the dietary aspect of it, because she's trained so hard over all the years and really worked at that, and eventually it'll catch up to you, because your metabolism does slow down as you get older, and I think you watch your diet more as you do get older. But the training really mitigates against having to be so strict with a diet. And that's one of
the beauties of weight training, is that it's actually better for people as you get older, because as you get older your natural metabolic rate goes down. So if you do a little bit of training and you keep your muscle tone up a little bit, then you're sort of compromising there, and your metabolic rate is actually staying up, because the more muscle you have on your frame, the higher your metabolism. So it sort of fights the aging, and the fact that your metabolism is dropped, or goes down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, the question is about for women that are pregnant, how do you go about training while you're pregnant so that you don't lose everything that you've been working for? My sister Cameo, she just 6 weeks ago had a baby boy, and she went and trained, and she's writing a book on that too, so that will help you out. But she's trained actually throughout her pregnancy. There was a point where she was like 6 and 7 months pregnant where she didn't really train much, but then she got right back into it and was training up until the day she had her baby. But what you really need to do is just change your training program a little bit. You're not supposed to get your heart rate up too high. You're not supposed to get your internal body temperature up too high either, because it could damage the fetus and the baby. So while she was on the stationary bike, she may ride for an hour, but it was like low intensity, nice and slow. She avoided doing a lot of abdominal, movements, and avoided doing anything that put compression on her stomach, like, the deadlift or things where her head was down below her feet, like hypers and those things she avoided. But she still did arm curls. Just use a lighter weight. I mean, as it gets closer and closer to your delivery date, just maintain, the only thing you should think about is maintaining. You're not gonna build anything, but a little bit of exercise just to maintain. And then as soon as you can after the pregnancy, just to get back into it again. So the important thing is just to not, really start taxing your internal body temperature and get that elevated, because that's what you want to avoid.
You've trained chest, legs, and back with Cory. Now Cory's training her shoulder muscles, the deltoid muscles, and doing a raise motion to the side, a lateral raise to work the medial part of the three-headed deltoid muscle. It's a very simple movement. You just keep your elbows at least as high as your wrists and just raise your arms out to your side in the motion of abduction. You can do this with books, you can do this holding onto dumbbells or on a special machine such as this. Women typically have smaller shoulders, so they are in desperate need of this sort of exercise. The best pieces of equipment to have for the shoulder muscles or the deltoid muscles are just 2 dumbbells. It can vary in weight from 5 to 20 pounds, or you can have adjustable dumbbells. You can do the lateral raise, which Cory is demonstrating here, for the medial head of the deltoid. That's the one that you just saw on the exercise machine. And again, if you have 2 books of fairly heavy weight, or dumbbells is fine. Front raise for the anterior portion of the deltoid, and this is a great one to build up that thin area on women around the clavicle or the collarbone area. You notice that she brings it up about a level equal to her lips in height, and that's because if she goes up too high or all the way to the top, then the trapezius muscles come into play and take over and do most of the work that you want to put on the deltoids. The bent over form of the lateral raise, because of the angle, now places most of the stress on the posterior portion of the deltoid. And it's important, again, because there are 3 parts to this muscle, to do the lateral raise, the bent over lateral raise, and the forward raise. This one is very hard, so you cannot use much weight for this exercise. Cory, continuing with shoulder exercises, is now doing the very popular behind the head press. It's called behind the neck press. For all of the groups of the shoulder, the front deltoid, the middle deltoid, and the posterior deltoid. This is an exercise to be done with great care and technique, and not so much with pushing heavy weights, because it does put the shoulders in a rather precarious position. So you should use good technique and a lighter weight for this exercise. You can do this in a seated or standing position.
Okay, we talked a little bit before about the great range in size and height and weight of bodybuilders and what are the judges actually looking for. They're looking for, whether it's in a person that's 5'1" or a person that's 6'1", they're looking for like this package. And the package is a person who's got real nice symmetry and proportion. And right now, the term symmetry and proportion is defined as a person who's got relatively wider shoulders to their waist, that has a nice taper, like if you picture a swimmer, that has a nice taper or V, and that has flowing muscles in all their body parts. Their muscles aren't real stringy. They're full. They've got nice muscle bellies. They're nice and sweeping muscle bellies. And it doesn't matter what your height is, because you can have that type of a package on a short package or on a tall package. They're not really looking for, in women's end, for somebody who is going to be competition for Lee Haney that's got that much muscle. Because once again, the emphasis on women, we can't develop the type of muscle men have. We can't develop the type of definition men have because we have different metabolisms. We have slower metabolisms. We carry more body fat in the lower body, in the gluteus and the quadricep and the hamstring. We can get more defined in the upper body than in the lower body. But we can't, they're not looking for us to challenge the men and to look like the men or to be able to attain those types of goals that the men have.
The general parameters that they're supposed to look for are just symmetry. The categories are general assessment round, which is symmetry of the bone structure, the muscle proportion, biceps to triceps, quads to hamstring, and then the second round is muscularity, how clear definition the muscles are, and then the final round is the posing round. Those are the parameters that they're supposed to look, but it is a subjective sport to a great extent, and beauty in the eye is the eye of the beholder, and one judge may think this woman just puts it together better than another judge does, and the other judge might just think the other woman does. So there is a lot of variability in the scores, and I think there will always be boos at bodybuilding contests because everybody has their idea of what is the ideal physique, which I think makes the sport more interesting instead of so static.
But to try to be balanced, if you go to the gym and you train your biceps every day and you never train your legs, your biceps and your upper body is going to get more developed and your legs are going to stay skinnier and smaller. So what you need to do too is to really look at your physique and critique your physique and assess it to see exactly how it would be more balanced. Even, so you're sort of evening the whole thing out a little bit.
The question was how beneficial are spas and massage and these other aids in recovery? Well, I think the number one thing is sleep and rest. That's the first most important thing to recovery. Number two would be the proper nutrition and carbohydrates and the right foods and supplements and things like that. Then you get into the area of more esoteric things, and I'd say that the number one thing would be massage, would be the next in order, to get excess fluids out of the muscle, to relax the muscles, to work out trigger points and tightness in the muscles and things like that. And then I would say after that, it would probably go to a lot of the people are experimenting with cold after the training, like real cold showers after the training to inhibit inflammation locally in the muscle, and then taking a sauna or steam to sweat out theoretically excess toxins like that, and to try those sort of things. I don't think it'll make any more than maybe 5 or 10% difference on total recovery time myself, because the body seems like it just is going to recover when it's ready to recover, and everybody recovers at a different rate and replenishes your energy stores within the muscles, and you really can't do too much with heat or cold or massage to encourage that along, but definitely massage will make you feel better. And you'll probably recover better by feeling better, and it does have some physiological benefits as well.
It seems like too that when you're first starting out an exercise program, like let's say you took some time off, that's usually when you really get sore and you have the trigger points and you're uncomfortable, and once you're in pretty good shape and you're toned, then you get less sore. It's always when you try something new, like a new exercise. If you've been doing leg extensions, all of a sudden you try doing lunges, you're going to get sore. And it's because you're using different muscle groups in different angles than what you're normally used to. The question is, do you ever get sick of eating to nourish your body? Not really, because I'm a pig, for one. And also, the thing is, when you're training so hard, you're burning so many calories that when I'm training for the Miss Olympia, I'm actually hungry all the time, because I'm training so many hours, throughout the day that I'm always hungry because I feel like I'm always running on empty. I don't ever have these huge meals, but I may have like 2 bagels and then go and run for an hour and then have another bagel, and then work on my posing routine for a couple hours, and then, you know, have something else. So it's not like you're eating so much that you get sick of it.
I found that when I was competing, that eating used to be a real big deal for me when I was really younger and lifting heavy weights and really competing, and I used to look so forward to eating meals and just certain types of foods. And I actually found that I ate worse kind of diet when I was training for bodybuilding competition than I do just normally, because it seems like your body develops such a carbohydrate drive. And I think that's one of the big mistakes that people make, is if they try to lower simple sugars completely out of the diet, that your body will have a certain amount of, to adjust itself, a craving for simple sugars. And that's why people that always go on zero carbohydrate diets will get this binging every 7 or 8 days, and their brain just craves a certain kind of carbohydrate, and they go and binge and eat all these ice cream cones or candy bars or whatever, and retain the water, and their weight cell is going up and down like this. So I think eating is, a professional bodybuilder like Cory, if I could speak for her, it just seems like from the experiences I've had with other bodybuilders, they don't really think about their eating that much. It's not a big deal to them. They just make sure that that when they're hungry, or when they get hungry signals, that they get some food into them, some protein and good carbohydrates, but they don't make it it's not as important to them as their training.
Mm-hmm. Training is always the most important thing, more so than vitamins and supplements and eating, just to get a good workout in.
After working the major muscle groups, the legs, the chest, the upper back, deltoids, you should move to the arm muscles. Cory is showing here the basic barbell curl for the arm flexors, primarily the bicep muscle in the upper arm. As with all the exercises, technique always takes precedent over the amount of weight. She doesn't swing with the body, she stays perfectly upright and goes through a full range of motion. At your option, you can do curls with the barbell or with dumbbells. Cory's now demonstrating dumbbell curls and using an alternating style, up with the right arm, then up with the left arm. This develops a nice rhythm when you do this exercise, and that's part of lifting weights, is learning the neuromuscular pattern to the movement, the skill to the movement, and it really is a way to better isolate the muscle and get better development. We recommend for women 10 to 15 reps for the upper body for the best combination of muscle shaping, defining, and building some strength. For those of you who want more strength, power, and mass, use heavier weights for lower repetitions. The seated concentration curl is another very popular exercise for the upper arm muscles. Several times we have related to the fact that if you do have a bad back or sore back, that you can modify your exercises to take the strain off the low back. And Cory here is sitting and supporting her weight with her hand on her opposite knee from what she is curling, and therefore taking all the strain off the lower back. In the concentration curl, because in this position you are really isolating the muscle and thus concentrating more on that muscle. bodybuilding, Cory has always stressed muscle proportion. Therefore, if you're going to train the biceps, you also have to train your triceps on the back of the arm, the three-headed muscle, to maintain proportionate development. This particular exercise is called the overhead dumbbell extension, and the prime point of the movement is to keep the elbow fixed. Simply articulate at the elbow, lower the dumbbell down behind the body, keeping the elbow fixed, and then straighten it out. Do it on both arms, or you can even hold the dumbbell together. Not doing it one arm at a time or doing it two arms at a time. Get a good stretch on the tricep, keep the elbows fixed, and simply extend, straighten out the lower arm. Utilizing the same position as the one-arm dumbbell row, which we showed you for the back, Cory now is demonstrating the tricep kickback in that same position. She tries to keep her upper arm as fixed as possible and merely straightens out the lower arm, kicking back by straightening out the lower arm with the power of the tricep. The function of doing these exercises this way, they're different, and they all stress the tricep muscle from a little bit different angle, putting a little bit different work on the varying three heads of the tricep muscle. Much the same way that you do different exercises for the deltoids, which are also a three-headed muscle. Cory's third tricep exercise is the lying tricep extension with a barbell. She lowers the bar very carefully towards the forehead, and I stress the word carefully here. Keeping the elbows fixed, which is important in all tricep exercise, she merely straightens out that lower arm with the power of the tricep. And this further isolates the different heads of the tricep at various angles, different angles. You can also do this movement in a pressing motion, a close grip tricep press. Because your hands are real close together, unlike the bench press, where your hands are wider, most of the work is shifted to the tricep muscle and the front deltoid rather than the larger chest muscles. So this also will work the tricep. In a final way, a different form of the exercise is the combination close grip tricep press with the pullover. The press part works one part of the tricep head more, and the pullover works a different part of the tricep head more. It also works the upper back muscles as well. It's an important tenet of bodybuilding is to do a wide variety of exercises so you influence the maximum shape of the muscles and develop proportionately. The question was working out twice a day, would that in likelihood lower natural testosterone? I think that would depend upon the individual again and how long the workouts were. Great athletes that have accommodated to higher workloads can work out. Some of the Bulgarian and Russian Olympic weightlifters work out 6 times a day. And they work out for between 30 and 50-minute sessions. Like they'll do it every 2 or 3 hours. They'll do some kind of high-intensity work, trying to ride on that natural production of the right hormones. But personally, when I was working out 2 times a day, for me, really beat me. I couldn't recover for that. And some athletes that are younger, in their teens and 20s, can do that. And I just think it depends a great deal on the person's recovery ability. Generally speaking, I don't think it would have a detrimental effect on the testosterone if the workouts were not too long and you had a natural ability to recover for them. The question was cosmetic surgery. Is that used much among the champions? I'll speak from the male point of view. There's been, people don't really understand this, but there's probably been as many or more cosmetic surgeries by the males than there has been for the females. And I refer to the side effect of anabolic steroids called gynecomastia, which is a feminization of the male breast. It actually gets heavier, and a lot of the champions have actually had that operation, and that's a form of cosmetic surgery because they've used too much anabolic steroid. I know a couple guys that have had their noses repaired and things like that, but it's not for bodybuilding. It's just something that they feel like personally that they wanted to do. I think that there's a big misconception that male and female bodybuilders have a lot of cosmetic surgeries, just period, and have a lot of cosmetic surgeries to enhance bodybuilding. And I think that's a real big misconception, because anybody that has a cosmetic surgery, as most women out there will know, it's you know, for your own self-image. The exception to that would be the calf implant, that a few of the male bodybuilders have attempted to get away with calf implants, which are clearly against the rules because it's muscle, and the IFBB has caught them and told them to remove the implants, or else has fined them, or you know, not place them appropriately where they should be. I think that's one of the dangers. The IFBB has to be very strong with the ruling of calf implants. There's even a cosmetic surgeon in California that's now doing pectoral implants for men. And you begin to wonder some days if you're going to be, some guy's just going to have bicep implants and just some kind of robot out there.
That's a good question. In competing the night before competition, what do you eat and how do you control your fluid? Well, I think there's a number of different things that people do. What we've found actually for women, I mean, we don't have that much muscle to start out with. And if you start to reduce the amount of fluid that you're taking in, your muscles generally look very stringy and flat. Like have you ever seen a person who's taken a diuretic? They look very flat and just stringy. They don't look good. They don't look healthy. They don't look like their muscle has any volume to them. So what I usually do is I usually train the same way I normally train the day up to the show. Some people will, okay, I'm competing Saturday, I'm not going to train a week before the show. Well, I think that's ridiculous, because then you're going to start to put on weight, you're going to start to retain water. So what I do is I train normally all the way up to the day of the show. Therefore, you're perspiring, you're losing fluid through your workout and sweating and respiration. And then if I feel as though I'm retaining water, which sometimes I do, I may ride the stationary bike fully clothed with sweats on. Albert Beckles has a trick. What he does is he takes plastic garbage trash can bags and he wraps them around his legs, and then he puts sweats on over that, and then he'll ride the bike for like half an hour and lose the surface water. That way you're losing the water that's right here in the skin, and you're not losing the water that's deep in the muscle that's making them full. Or you can do things like lay in the solarium with your clothes on, just to perspire, a little bit. And
that's what I've been doing. That's why I don't get tan.
Yeah. But as far as what I'll do is, like the day before the show, I may not drink so much water. Like usually I just drink a lot of water throughout the day, and we do that on purpose, just to flush your system out all the time and to keep your muscles full. But if I'm competing Saturday, Friday, I may start drinking just a little bit of water every couple hours, with your vitamins or with your rice or whatever you're eating, but not drink so much water where your stomach gets bloated, but just drink a little bit every couple hours, because your body still needs the nutrients and water and the minerals, and it still needs the fluid, it needs the volume. As far as what do I eat the day before the show, still the day before the show I'll eat long chain carbohydrates like baked potatoes, rice cakes, pita bread, things that are low in fat, low in salt, but just high in carbohydrate. And as the show gets closer, like towards the evening of the day before the show, I may start eating more simple, shorter chain carbohydrates like toast with a little bit of jam on it. In the morning of the show, I may have some cereal that's once again a simple, shorter chain carbohydrate, or a toast with some jam on it to get a little bit of sugars into your system. The morning of the show, you don't really need to eat a lot of protein, or even the week before the show, you don't need to eat a lot of protein, because you're not going to build a lot of muscle the week before the show. What you're trying to do is to maintain the muscle that you have. At the same time, you're trying to lose body fat. So, long chain carbohydrates, low fat, low salt. The question is abdominal training. Is it a good idea to do it with weights and also without weights? We usually try to say to people to do abdominals at least 2 days a week, minimal. You can do them more. I don't think that you can overtrain your abdominals. As far as using weights, I think for men that have a very small amount of development in their abdominal area, it's important to use weights to develop, the muscle size so that they appear, really nice on stage. For women, on the other hand, like I was saying before, we're judged a little bit differently. I think if a woman had abdominals like Bertil Fox or Tom Platz, you'd look really blocky. So for women, it's more important just to keep the area toned and slim and small and tight with a little bit of definition, but not really the huge rippling muscles. But it is important if you want to develop those type of rippling muscles that you use weight. Yeah, sometimes you see bodybuilders that have these, like, what we call them as power guts, where there's like not a lot of fat on the stomach, but yet they're huge. You know, there's just like this big, powerful stomach, you know, just sticking way out. And, you know, one of the things is you've got to train very carefully. You don't want to use heavy weights for side bending, and because then you get those big, blocky obliques. But if you want to, you know, develop a little bit more muscle tone and muscle rippling in the front of the abdominals, you can use, you know, a plate behind your head and do crunches, or, you know, the sit-up board. But just really, if you don't want to develop the big blockiness on the outside, then don't use weights on those oblique muscles.
The most important area of your body in terms of stability for all sports and underlying good health is the midsection. It's very important to keep a trim midsection, and even bodybuilders really have to work hard at this area in combination with a good diet to get maximum muscularity in the midsection. The fundamental exercise is very simple to do. It's called the crunch. It's not a full sit-up, because a full sit-up does work the hip flexors a great deal and takes the strain off the stomach muscles. The crunch, where you keep your low back flat, lift your legs up so that the hip flexors aren't involved, and just curl your head towards your legs. And you can do this also in the side position, which Cory is doing now, which really tries to isolate the oblique muscles as well as the rectus abdominis, which Cory was previously working in the regular crunch, the washboard-like muscles on the front of the body. These are the muscles that do twisting motions, the oblique muscles at the side. There are certain variations of crunch movements which are important to do, because when you do your abdominal routine, you want to constantly move, to keep moving through a variety of exercises. This Cory kind of calls the reclining bicycle, where she alternates her elbows to the opposite knee in a rhythmic motion. This will work the rectus abdominis muscles in the center of the abdomen, also works the hip flexors and the obliques. And finally, some kind of modified leg raise, which again works the hip flexors in the hips. It also works the rectus abdominis in the front of the stomach. Abdominal movements are really only effective if you eat properly, which means a low-fat and a balanced caloric diet. You have to work at both exercise and good nutrition to maintain health and a slim waistline. The twist exercise is really only effective if you are leaning back slightly to put tension on the obliques and the rectus muscles. If you twist in a perfectly vertical position, then you are simply twisting with gravity, and you're not working against any kind of resistance or in any kind of isometric position. By leaning back slightly, you'll put your rectus muscles into an isometric contracting position, and then by twisting, you work your oblique muscles on top of it. You do them slow, you do not do them fast. That could lead to injury.
5 or 6 years. But I think I've refined it, and I think I've improved on my presentation.